Now they can hear us. But we should probably have people confirm that they can hear us. What's up, Baxter?
Hey Baxter, good evening to all.
Mitchell, you can say hey.
Hey, how you guys doing?
All right, you're
Just
on
my
too.
YouTube's lagged here. I see what you're saying now. Just gotta
Yeah. Hey,
minimize that part.
don't really worry about looking at it, but you can just see
It
the
was throwing me
comments.
off.
I
It's like, am I
can't.
moving in slow-mo right now, or what's happening?
No, there's like a 3 second, 2 to 3 second delay. And usually I share my screen. I can actually probably share my screen in Discord with you
Move
guys
it
if
over
you
there.
don't want to have lag, so it doesn't mess you up. And you can
No,
actually
it's
be
fine. I'll
looking.
just move the YouTube screen off. Just look at the chat.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's you gotta look at yeah, don't look at
it'll throw you. Sometimes, like when I've got other stuff going on here, it's like I've got multiple things, and it's up. What up, Dan? And I've got like so much stuff can throw you off. My new setup. So like I mentioned the other day on Wednesday's video, I think that I want like ideas for a desk setup. Like I want to do like the office I'm putting it in. I want to do a nice like trading setup that looks like legit like room. So I'm trying to like get ideas and scour YouTube and scour Discords and be like, what's a good like a desk setup with the proper amount of monitors, not to where it's like 50, but it's like I got my 9 charts and I've got my 4 that I use, like that I switch through, but I want to have hourly and or really just hourly and I have 15-minute, like an hourly thing, like some bigger picture stuff, and I
Maybe
want to
daily too.
monitor, yeah, like daily and hourly, and I want to be able to see that, and I want at least one more monitor or 2 more monitors, and
what are
maybe
you running now?
2. I've got a 38-inch like ultra
Hmm?
wide, and then a 27-inch
Okay.
Same
above it.
here. I got 34-inch ultra wide, 27-inch, and I have a little portable monitor.
Mhm.
That's where I put the raw data and level 2 and stuff on the little monitor.
I've messed around with like throwing, because it's set up like probably like yours, like ultra wide and then 27-inch, and I messed around with like moving my level 2 and my fidelity stuff up top. I've messed around with like popping my windows out of fidelity and having them in certain places and removing charts and stuff. But maybe it's just because you're used to something, it's hard to get comfortable switching.
Oh
It's
yeah. Anytime I switch a new monitor setups, it's a nightmare. takes me like
yeah.
2 hours to get used to.
I gotta have my level 2 like adjacent to a small time
Yeah.
frame chart, or yeah, and then also have like Gator the way you do it, how you've got order your order window right next to your chart, and then your
Hmm.
level 2 on the other side. I've tried that, man. I cannot do that. I want my level 2 like right next to the 1 minute chart right there and the cues.
Like, well, I guess my cues, my 1 minute's down here. Like my new videos, you can't see it because I've got it like cut up, like all my stuff cut up. But yeah,
Hmm?
it's I don't
I
know.
can show you my setup.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, does that work? So I have one of the
Yeah,
laptops. It's the Asus. It actually has 2 screens in the laptop, so I'm able to
nice,
have the Discord and stuff down here. And
nice.
Nice.
I have the 34-inch ultra wide. I have mine up top. I think you said yours is below, or
Yeah, I can't like my
and then
stuff.
I have a 27-inch, and then I have
Nice.
this little portable monitor. That's where I put level 2 data and stuff.
Okay.
So that's kind of like that.
Nice. Yeah, I've got like if I've showed pictures of my desk on whatever before, and my desk's a mess right now. So, but like I've got a wide monitor here, and then above it like a stacked monitor. I have a 27-inch on top of it, and they're both the curved monitors. And
All
then I
right.
do have like a 27-inch or whatever laptop. Like I've got a laptop sitting over on the side that I
I'm
sometimes use for Discord.
I'm trying to get this set up like to the point where I can share as well briefly here. Okay, so the Zoom thing is where my order window would be, but I do. Let's see here. Can you see here? Okay, so
Yeah.
how far back do we got to go here? Okay, so that would be like my where I keep the T3 room and stuff
Hmm.
over here and the Discord here. That monitor up there, I will typically do like either one of these guys here with like multiple time frames in this, and then down here I'll have like the Active Trader Pro here going with like my 1 and 2 minute cues and focus list here, and then this is like my B focus list over here on the side monitor there. So these are like
Okay.
75 inch over under. That's my Discord stuff. Yeah. So I don't know. I've talked about this before, like because I need reading glasses for stuff
Hmm.
that's super close. I will I have massive monitors up high because I really hate having reading glasses on when I'm like trying to trade. It's annoying.
Let's see if I
How
can.
big is your monitor up top?
The over under ones are both 75-inch, and I have those about like 4 to 5 feet away from where I sit at my desk.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, so it's not like up close, but it's like like if I had a, I don't know, it works for me because
Yeah.
like anything closer than like 2 feet, I need reading glasses for. So
Right, right.
This is kind of what I'm working with now. So I've got this.
oh yeah, dude, when you have a proper office and you can do some like you should have like 4 monitors, bro.
Yeah.
Like four
So
of those curved ones,
I
dude.
thought so. I've got this one, and what I think I'm gonna do. So Costco just had a sale on 32-inch nice 32-inch 1440 whatever. So I bought 2 of those. So I'm gonna have this one. I might move this one up, get rid of this one, put another 38-inch curved here in the new office, and then have the 2 on the side like TIE Fighter or whatever. So it'll be this full screen with this 30 whatever inch and the 38-inch curved, and then over here I'll have the 2 with chat and longer time frame stuff. And then
Nice.
I've got a laptop and I've got portable monitors that I'll put in a different place in the house in case I'm like downstairs and I'm doing something else. Well, that's kind of what I'm working with. What up, Pablo?
What's up, Pablo? What's up, Con?
Let's I guess we can we'll kind of officially, we've got a few things that we are going to go over tonight, guys, that we've kind of we haven't pre-talked about them other than just saying we're going to hit this up and going to hit this topic, blah blah blah, but we're just here to hang out, answer questions. Oh, by the way, one of my favorite parts of the setup before we jump into that, it is like a heater for my coffee so it doesn't get cold.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Look at that.
I set it there because you start drinking your coffee and then you start trading and it's an hour later or 30 minutes later and you forget you got cold coffee. Nobody likes that. Get a heater for your desk.
That's a great idea.
So
Get a watt, like get an amp meter or a watt meter in your new office, and especially if you start plugging in a ton of stuff, make sure that you're not like near the threshold of tripping the breaker. Because I know that like a heater,
Yeah.
yeah, this one's just
That's-
like I don't think this one's too high, but yeah, I definitely need to get one of those. I should probably get a few of them. So, yeah, especially in the new one, the new office, I agree. So, whatever I was saying, we're just going to talk, we're going to hang out, answer your questions if you have them. We have a few topics we're going to go over here tonight from things that people have sent us, and and then we'll give Mitchell a chance to introduce himself. I know he hasn't been on the show, so welcome for the first time, Mitchell.
well, this
Thank
is
you.
your debut, bro.
Debut.
That's my debut.
Sick.
First time. I'm Gator. Let's kick it. All right, so we're back. All right, so Mitchell, for the people who haven't seen this, is Mitchell. He's in our Discord group. Not so shameless plug for the Discord group. If you guys want to join, there's a link in the description, and I highly recommend this group. There's some incredible traders in here. We really work together to help each other from everything from daily call-outs, strategies, ideas, different stuff that works, videos, other things. The trade review show that happens daily. I have actually gained a lot of knowledge from this trade review stuff, watching other people and watching them grow. Even when I can't get on it live, I'll go in and watch it after the fact. Andrew's doing incredible stuff over there, and there was a great one today that Chuckett was talking about, a trade that he did in the queues and how he just saw it and it was like Geronimo was like shining a light down on him and like the heavens opened up and he's like, this is what it's supposed to look like. I'm supposed to short it here, and it, and so watching the growing and all that kind of stuff happen is just great. So if you want to participate in that or be a part of it, check out that and check out the Discord. So Mitchell, welcome. First time on the show. Let me know or tell the people about yourself.
Sure.
Your journey.
I started trading I started learning all the C strategies. I had found out about NewsBeat through Rose, actually, in our Discord group. And I started learning the strategies in late 2020. And then I didn't start trading till February of 2021. And for the first couple months, I was just losing money nonstop. I was down pretty big. I was about to just kind of give it up. And then I was also a part of a different Discord group where you pay a monthly fee and they call out trades. And that just was a nightmare. So I learned my lesson with that. And then I'd say around April, maybe early May, something just clicked. And I started to be able to figure out how to read the tape in level 2 and to start to have a better idea of how to understand when C strategies would work and when they're more likely to fail. And since then, I quit my job and have been doing this pretty much full time, just like you guys. And it's been going great so far. This year's been a lot harder than last year so far, but just kind of been in survival mode. And yeah.
Did you find it hard to kind of make that like mentally? You went full time, and now this year has been harder. Any regrets, or are you just like, hey, this is just part of the storm. I'm gonna weather it and grow?
It's definitely been stressful because my first year, once things kind of clicked in April, May, there were some really good months last year. I know you guys had great months too. June was really good, November, and I kind of got used to taking, big size and having that instant gratification with these setups. And coming into this year, I was kind of in the mindset that, this is my first full-time year doing it. I've spent all this time figuring out all these strategies. I feel like I have a good understanding now. So I'm going to go into this year and kill it. And then sure enough, the market was so difficult in January, February, March. Every month basically has been difficult. I'd say February was probably the easiest so far, at least for me. I think the first week of January was all right. And then from there on, it's been really hard. So it's definitely been an adjustment where I had to figure out how to completely change my strategies, size down, hold longer, avoid toxicity, let go of that desire to have instant gratification 10 minutes into the day where you're already up thousands of dollars. Sometimes those opportunities don't present themselves for 30 minutes or an hour. So I had a lot of days where I was starting out red $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and I'd have to come back. So it's definitely been a process adjusting this year. But I think in the long term, it's really beneficial to experience every type of market and not just, a trending bull market, because if you want to make this viable long-term and sustainable, you need to be prepared for all different conditions and not just a bull market.
Got to be able to grow. So cheers to you to actually being in a Discord now that hopefully is not too, as opposed to the one that you're in before. That's a little bit
this
better.
one's much better. Also.
to the NewsBeat Live. To all you bandits out there, happy trading. Hope y'all had good.
We're gonna have to do each other Gator. Then we'll do other way Gator. You got this.
You're below me. Way. You're below me.
Oh my! Oh shoot! I'm looking at the Zoom.
Yeah, you're looking at Zoom. Cheers.
Skirt.
Cheers.
We just got to go at the camera.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and Zoom are that way. I guess we could have done that, but so. This, I don't know. This, CeeTee, you're still kind of sticking, and it might be partially because you're moving, and I was kind of doing that too. It was hard to kind of make a mental switch of learning and taking the time to, like, practice longer holds and the mental kind of, fortitude it takes to kind of get to that point. You're kind of still doing a lot of the quicker stuff. Is it? And we do too, but it's just like you're like doing that, and then you got so much going on. The box is behind you, your move. So how are you staying consistent with that this week?
Well, really, my game plan is like as soon as I'm up money, just logging off, because I feel like to practice the longer term holds, you're gonna have to sit around for a while and wait for things to kind of come together and see the bigger picture and see those trends that you want to like buy the pullback or whatever. And for me, I'm not in a good mindset right now to be trading for like a long period of time. Like I need to just make some money and like lock it in and get on with packing and all this other stuff I have going on. So yeah, and I feel like I'm kind of missing out because I would like to stick around and do tiny tier like scalps and the queues and all this other stuff that we've been getting coached in and that we've been talking about. So I'm gonna have to play catch up on that once I get settled. But like honestly, there's been days this week where 5 minutes in, I'm just like, I should probably lock it in right now. Like, and
Yeah.
like in hindsight, there's definitely been some days where I should have just locked it in 5 minutes in. Like, cool, I just like had two like solid trades. Like, just lock it in, dude. Just walk away. And it's hard to do because we've got the community, and you kind of want to be there and be part of it, and we're all friends, and you want to hang out. But like when I look back on my week, I definitely gave back like way too much on some days when like it did enter my head like dude, you just like those were two amazing trades, just like call it a day and like get to work on all the stuff you have to get to work on. And my mindset hasn't really been as good as it could be. I'm like a chronic insomniac, so having this many things going on like in my personal life is taxing, and I'm not getting the kind of sleep I need to get. So
Dude, you're probably going hard. You're just like can't sleep up all night, just getting everything done.
oh my god, it's brutal.
Hmm. It's I don't know. I had a hard time doing it. Um,
the
when I
the
was
thing I
trying to
will
move.
say, yeah, so I mean, as long as we're like sharing my experiences this week, I'm sure we're going to go around. Everybody can share their experience. The thing that I have been struggling with this week is I think I've talked about this before. I basically tiered down like super small this whole month, and I'm just considering this month like a practice month, right?
Hmm.
So I'm not really trading because I'm trying to make money this month. I'm trading because I just want to stay frosty more or less and keep in the game so that when I'm back and settled in Puerto Rico, like I can get back to doing normal tier size.
Yep.
And what I'm finding is that like my biggest problem this week was that at a small tier size, like let's say I'm up like $1,000 or whatever, and I'm just thinking, dude, you just did that with like two or three contracts in like two or three trades, like just lock it in and like walk away,
Hmm.
right? I'll let myself like tick down to like $500 or whatever, and maybe even like keep going past there when like if that was $10,000 and I let myself come down to 5,000, I would be just like really disappointed with myself. So like my
Exactly. Yeah.
my money management is not I'm not scaling my money management the way I would if I was like at normal tier size. And so that's something I need to like for me, that's what I learned from this week is that I'm not managing my money the same way I would if I was at a bigger tier size, and I need to change that. So that's my thing for the week. Mitchell, you sounded like you wanted to like comment on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've noticed on these choppy days where it's really difficult, you kind of know when you're 30 minutes into the market, everyone's struggling. There hasn't really been any opportunities. Those are the days where I go red to green, green to red to green, like 5 times in a row. And there's always a time when I get back to green, like $500, let's say. And I always consider I should probably lock it in here. But because I'm only up 500, I'm like, well, I can't. But this meeting has been upgraded by
You're
the. Oh,
good.
sorry.
Yeah, you're good. That's me.
Okay.
I didn't have
Okay.
Zoom. I had to update my subscription.
I thought it kicked me out for a second. Okay.
No, no, you're good.
Um, because I'm only up $500, I was thinking in my head, well, I'm used to having better days than this, so I'm going to try and at least get to four figures. But I almost always end up going back to red, and then before I know it, I'm red $1,000, red 2,000, and so on those really grindy days that are hard, when I've gone back and forth green to red like at least 4 times or so, I'm gonna work on just locking it in once I get back to green, even if it's green $100. It's so much better than going back red and having four-figure red days because it just eats into your account and makes you so toxic. So on these really difficult days, I'm going to set my target a lot lower. And I was better about that this week, but the last couple of weeks before that, I was making that mistake over and over.
Well, you seems like you had been like I've noticed you on the mic. You've been changing, or maybe just verbalizing because you've gotten comfortable with it. Some of the trades that you did have been doing, and I'm gonna find the one that you took today. So at the end of the day, was it at 2:30 or was it? I wasn't on, but I was actually gaming, and I just had this stuff up, and I saw that you called that you were in. It was when Tesla hit VWAP, and I don't know if it was
Right.
after this fail or if it was the 3:30. Was it the 3:30 VWAP test in Tesla?
It was, Yeah, I'm having like
Yeah.
325 roughly.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, that's it.
you've gotten, and you did this earlier in the day. You were doing it in some other calls. You were like, I'm waiting for the pop, right? I'm going to sell it right here. And I've kind of done that a little bit too. But, your calls have been on money on some of these and some of the stuff you're seeing. You've kind of, has that shift like worked for you? Like when you do stay around, are you actively trading, or are you just sitting here like, okay, Tesla failed, there's nothing here, if it goes back up and tests VWAP again, I'm going to short it? Like when you're looking for that strategy in the middle of the week, or if you do hang out all day, because sometimes I come back and you're here at 3, I'm usually not trading. Are you trade hunting, or are you still scalping?
I mean, at that time of day, I'm usually pretty locked in. I just kind of passively observe to see if there's a setup like that. I can kind of walk you through what I was thinking during
Mm-hmm.
that. So at that point, I had fibbed the entire down move of the whole day today on Tesla, from the high, which was around 9:36 a.m., to the low, which was about 12:50. And so I fibbed that line. And not long before that, Tesla had retraced right to the 50% line, almost to the, within like 50% of it, or 50 cents of it, it came just above. And then it flushed down to VWAP, didn't get a bounce on VWAP, flushed VWAP. So I was still overall pretty bearish on Tesla. It had respected the 50% retracement and flushed off of that. And then, so what had happened is the Qs were coming down, and they got really close to yesterday's low. And I'm sure you've noticed this, that they'll come close to yesterday's low, then they'll get a little pump before actually breaking it.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that's, I don't know, the algo is just trying to weed people out of their positions before they, flush it for good. And so once the Qs were getting that little bit of pump close to yesterday's low, I had a strong feeling that before the close, the Qs would flush yesterday's low. So I was watching Tesla, and it came right up to VWAP, and I had a strong feeling that that was going to be heavy resistance to get above that. And so all I did was I was just had my eyes glued to the level 2. I was waiting for it to actually, I don't know if trigger would be the word, but for it to hit that level. And so it hit, it printed 1 cent above VWAP at the time when I was watching. It was 992.08, and it printed 992.09. And so I was watching the level 2, and the second it printed and hit it, the second the level 2 leveled out, stopped ticking up, and the tape was really slow. There wasn't buying coming in. It wasn't accelerating. It wasn't about to have a huge pop. I just jumped in, and I set my stop about 50 cents above that. So I knew that if the trade didn't work and it came back up and ticked up a little bit, I would take, maybe a 20-cent loss or something. I wasn't worried about that. And so I just jumped in, and my plan was to hold Tesla until the Qs flushed yesterday's low, because I didn't think Tesla would flush yesterday's low because it was pretty far away and it was pretty late in the day. So, but I figured if the Qs did come down to yesterday's low, Tesla would start flushing. Tesla ended up being not the best choice. Amazon was weaker in that moment. Google was, Nvidia, Apple, but it did finally work around 339. It started to have some more selling, and I was just tiered low. So it was low ATR. I was holding through all the grind, and it was, these kind of trades work if you just take lower size and you can hold through the grind and you have a stop loss you're honoring. It can be easy money, especially when you have a clear trend on the Qs. So that was my idea behind the trade.
It's kind of
So
a
Mitchell,
bigger good idea. Sorry, go ahead.
On something like that where it's just a small tier and you're like, you know what, I have a defined stop and everything. Do you take the time to set that stop in your platform so that you're not like sitting there just like cracked out on the level 2 the whole time, or how do you do that?
No, I've thought about doing that. I have like PTSD from setting actual stop losses in brokerage platforms, because what happens is they'll lower the bid and it'll trigger your stop loss and immediately come up. And it's happened to me so many times where it just like in a quick millisecond, the bid lowers, triggers your stop loss. You lose like $1,000, and then it whips back up, and it never really flushed or anything. And so Um, I just don't never really trust setting stop losses because you know how it works with payment for order flow. They can see all your stop losses in place. So I try and just keep my eye on the level two. And the thing is when it's low ATR and grindy later in the day like this, you know there's not going to be just a random huge pop with a ton of volume usually. So I'm never that worried. And I usually just try and set my stop loss maybe 50 cents roughly above the level. So in that case, it was about 992.50. And most of the time, later in the day with heavy resistance, if there isn't a lot of buying, it won't get above that level. Maybe it'll get above like 20 cents or so, but usually you're pretty good.
I find my success is a lot better with stuff like this, and for the people watching who are trying to get to it later in the day, like it's because you have such a low ATR. If you take the appropriate size, and it's like you're saying you're waiting for the cues to break day lows, or you're waiting for something like this to happen, it's easier when you don't have the whip. And that's why I like playing Google more sometimes than Amazon, is because if you get in and that little bit of price action doesn't throw you out. Well, if Tesla has an ATR, at one point it was like under $1 this afternoon. It was just grindy. Like the movements, like the price of the options aren't really moving more than $1. And especially if you've already been in the trade for a little bit and you're probably a little bit green on it, you're not scared because you're really not up enough money to where you're scared of like, oh man, I was up a point. Yeah, but that point was like 2 contracts when you normally take 10. So you're kind of cool with it going down to 20 cents and then going and
Exactly.
working. Because if it works,
Exactly. Yeah.
you're gonna make your money.
Yeah. Yeah. On a setup like that, if I would have taken 10 contracts, the second it had that little flush off of VWAP, I would have felt so much pressure to sell because even if I'm up a point, I'm like, that's $1,000. If this trade ends up not working, I just gave up $1,000. But by taking lower size, I caught much more of the move and end up making, basically an equivalent amount of money with a lot less stress. And that's been key for me. Even if there's certain setups where if I were to size up and take a lot more contracts, even if that were to be more profitable, I found doing that this year because things have been so difficult, it just makes you so stressed and toxic, and it ends up just causing me to have huge red days for a variety of reasons. So I'm just really trying to focus on lower size lately.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to having more like being in a position to trade later in the day because I feel like you don't like until like 30 or 45 minutes have passed. That's when I feel like sometimes volatility starts to chill a little bit, and especially later in the day, you start to get less whip and more like smooth moves and things. And the it also takes like a while for something to come together in terms of a trend so that you can like clearly see a good pullback and get into it. Like that's stuff that just doesn't happen in the first 30 minutes. So I kind of feel like I'm missing out on that, and it's a bummer, but that's something I look forward to spending more time working on.
But I'd give you props more than like most people would tilt, and then we'll get into something that we talked about doing earlier, but your tilt, like knowing that you can't trade that much, so many people would just come in and smash it. I don't know if you have done that or not, but they would try to, and they would have that blowout or that, you know what I mean, like that, so much pressure on them to trade early. The fact that you can actually just trade and stop, and I'm sure some days it's harder, but like that day when Tesla held up and we actually got to short it through the 2 minute breakdown, you
Mhm.
know, and it went like, okay, well, I can be done now. And like to actually be able to tell yourself that, like, you'll never go broke if you can do that and you're up $1,000, $2,000 after 5 minutes in working, and then you log out and you walk away. It's like if you do that every day, you're done. Like you work 5 minutes a day. Now it doesn't work like that every day, but it's have you found it like difficult to
Well, I mean,
keep
yeah,
that
it's
mindset? I
definitely
mean,
it's definitely hard because clearly, like, just the fact that I'm super tiered down. Like when I feel like it's a good trading day, you know, I want to prioritize making money over getting stuff done, which is not the smart thing to do right now. But it scales up is the other thing. Like Gator, we've been training together for more than a couple years now. I'm sure you can remember back to the old room when it would be 15 minutes in and I'm out. Like I'm
Yep.
going on a bike ride. Like I got really good early on in my career at just being able to cool, I'm up money. This is like a solid day. I'm just gonna walk away and I'm gonna be up in the mountains, like on the trails, like thinking about how great it is to have my entire day ahead of me and I already made all my money. Like you just, it's takes a while to train yourself to do that. But again, I do miss out on the practice of, trading these longer term holds by doing that. So it's a
It's,
give and take.
it is. I chose to do it this
One,
week. Go ahead, Mitchell.
one thing I was going to say is I noticed this pattern I was having where I go through, let's say, the first hour, hour and a half, when there's more volatility, and I get to a point where I'm at day highs. And then there's always a point in the day where the trading gets more difficult. And usually there's a variety of ways to figure that out, but usually you figure it out because you take like two losses in a row, right? Once you've taken like two losses in a row, you realize, oh, this is now more difficult. I'm losing money.
It's like
And
50% of
so
your money goes away.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Let's say I now have given back 30% of my day. Usually, if I'm careful and after taking like two losses, I say, okay, I'm going to be very patient. I'm going to wait for like one more good trade. I can usually make back some of what I lost and get closer to uh, my day highs. And I struggle with this, but when I lock it in right then, let's say I've given back 30% and then I have a good trade and now I'm only 15% off day highs. I feel like that's the best time to lock it in because usually, or what's happened to me a lot is that I say, okay, well, now I'm only 15% off day highs. Let me try and find one more trade to get back to day highs. And then I always end up just going right back to giving. Then I get really frustrated. And before I know it, now I've given back 50%. And so once the day gets more difficult and choppy, uh, and I've given back a little bit, I think it's best to be patient, find a good setup, make back a little bit of what I lost, and just lock in the second I've had a good trade, and not try and get back to day highs because that's just a death sentence every time.
Yeah, it's like your mindset changes. And what up, Ari or Naveen? Your mindset. Hope you had a good day, man, with Amazon moving.
Evening, Naveen.
When you have that happen, it's like you start thinking about the money, and you don't like mentally change your psychology to the trade hunting because like we scout momentum early, and we know how to read the tape and spot momentum and see it happening and make money off of it. Like after you've seen moves a couple of times, you can kind of do it. But when that switch happens to like, okay, this leg is done, I need to wait for this, I need to wait for like the development to happen in the next really good trade, it's hard to switch almost instantaneously to that now like hunter of a trade location. Like I'm looking for this thing, I'm going to take it with the right size that's now tiered down and let it work. And it's like it shifts so fast, and the only
Yeah,
days I've made money is when
Exactly.
I'm able to make that shift here quickly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like there's this thing going on where you can there is a window of opportunity most mornings where you can be aggressive and catch momentum. And sometimes that lasts like 5 minutes, sometimes that lasts 20 minutes, but it's almost always over at like 30 minutes, in my opinion, like in my experience, like this week. So the thing that I try to keep reminding myself is like Mitchell, like what you're talking about. Oh, I just lost two trades in a row and gave back like a big chunk of my day. I think that it's important to realize to just quickly take a second and remind yourself, you know what, conditions have changed. Like you're not just gonna the next trade. If you just lost two in a row, like clearly something is changing over compared to what has been happening. So chill the f out and either do what you're talking about, Mitchell, and just be patient, Gator, go into hunter mode, or just walk away. There's nothing wrong with walking
Yeah.
away. If you're up money, you're up money, and you're never gonna go broke with green days.
Yeah. Exactly.
I look at it like as a as cost of doing business, and it's helped me get past trying to make back the money. Not that I don't still want to make it back sometimes and struggle with stuff like that, but it's like the trading aggressive momo or trading aggressively in momentum the cost of doing that is losses at the end of that momentum unless you spot the end of the third leg, or oh, it's hitting pivot, this is obviously the end of the unless there's something that's so obvious. Like, the cost of doing that is taking some losses within that momentum scalping. So I kind of assume that 30% of my day, like from day highs, I try to look at it as cost of doing business. So if I'm up 2 grand, it's like, honestly, at 2 grand, it's probably like 50% or something before I really start getting picky. But if it's like you're up 3 grand, 4 grand, or whatever it is to each individual person on the day, it's like, okay, $2,500 or $1,000 or $500 is now the cost of doing the next trade. And it's like that risk management stuff starts coming in, and I just accept that I know that that can get here, and I try to size accordingly to risk that once I get up. But it's just, to me, it has to be the cost of doing business as a trader.
I think that's like an amazing way to frame it in your head, Gator. That really, as a momentum trader, you're like you're gambling on like momentum continuing, and part of like the risk versus reward with that is that you are at the end of that like momentum. Like eventually the momentum is going to like run out and it's not going to work. So you kind of do have to like take the good with the bad. And I think that's amazing. I don't think I've heard anybody say anything like that before, and I like that a lot.
That's
Yeah,
why go ahead.
day highs is just, I feel like it's an illusion. Like we all have this attachment at finishing at day highs, but it's it's just pointless trying to always finish at day highs, because you'll just end up giving back most of your day if you try that. You're always going to usually finish, on a good day, 20-30% off day highs, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm just trying to hammer that into my head and stop that desire to always finish at day highs.
Because I lost, or this week, I didn't expect much because you have a 4-day week, and you have, the what is that? What's the holiday this week? The
Good
Jewish.
Friday, I think.
Oh, that's today, but the
Good Friday.
Jewish Passover. Passover.
Okay.
Is it Passover? Somebody
Yeah.
in the comments will tell me it's, yeah. And so Geronimo was going to be out half the week, so it was like and it was nice weather here in Maryland. So like my expectation was, I'm going to do kind of like what CeeTee is doing, and it's going to be a choppy week. Momentum's going to happen early, and then more than likely it's going to grind. Am I going to want to sit here and play the grind, or let's go golfing? And every day, with the exception of Monday, I think, I was like, I'm just going to go golfing. And I had a green day every day, trading 30 minutes to 45 minutes. And Monday, I traded all day, and it was a huge day. And then the rest of the week, I probably only made about half of what I made on Monday, but it was okay. It was great money and great trading. And I locked it in, and I went golfing. I came back and I played with my kids. I didn't play the close. And I was happy doing that. I didn't have to be there trading all day. And the ATR was slow, and it was a grindy market. So as a mainly momentum scalper who's trying to learn to play these levels, it was like you could kind of identify that this week was going to be that. So expectations, I think, were easier to set this week. I don't know if the rest of the people in chat kind of felt the same. Well, I know Easter. It's Passover, yeah. I know Easter's this Sunday. Yeah, that one I definitely know. I meant like in the middle of the week. That was, Jewish holiday. It was Passover. I am aware of Easter, I think. As my kids as a Christian, and then as my kids will be appropriately
Your kids
dressed
aren't going to
up.
let you forget about that.
No, well, right now they're about to be like super, super dressed up, I think, for this Easter. I feel like they're going to have some cute baby, stuff on.
Nice.
So while we're on this with this, because this kind of goes into that switch that you have in the morning, toxicity. And someone sent you something, and they want to remain anonymous, so you're not gonna share their name. But toxicity happens, and usually that change in the day is one of the times when it happens. So let's talk about that a little bit for the people that are here. And when you're ready, I will jump over to your screen.
Yes. Let me pull that up here just a moment.
That's not right, because I moved it.
Okay. And I'm gonna. I can maybe make this small enough. Are we gonna lose our faces?
No, well, yes, but let
I
me
mean,
hang on. Sorry, guys.
because I can probably make this work with our faces. We'll see.
I don't know. I'm trying to get this. So sorry, guys. I actually jacked up the screen. You're good. So now we should have your. This YouTube is gonna be. People are gonna be like, "This is trippy."
Mine's lag. I just see a bunch of gators on the screen now.
It's like 20 gators at the same
It's an
time.
optical illusion.
Which one is this? Sorry, I'm trying to figure out which one.
Or if it's easier, we can just switch over and just talk.
No, you're good. I've got it. So share your screen.
Oh, I still need to share my screen. My bad.
Yeah, that's why I can't see it.
Boosh.
Sorry, guys, for this. We had, as the usual.
We are traders, not broadcasters. If you haven't figured that out already.
If you didn't know.
Okay, cool. So I'm screen sharing here. Okay, so this is the message that I received from one of our community members, and I thought let's just frame it here before we start talking about his actual sheet here. So basically, I'm going to read it out for those of you that's too small to see. Basically, you set simple rules when to stop trading, and you stick to them. You basically know what makes you toxic. Your rules are more or less designed to step in before you get to that point. I've had trouble sticking to my own daily stop rules and even your 4 rules that you showed us a couple weeks ago. Try to think if there's a different way to measure or something I could use other than a daily dollar figure that I could adhere and stick to. He came up with a toxicity scorecard, tries to measure his mindset before, after, and during trading to gauge whether it's like appropriate to continue. And he says, I think it's comprehensive, which is good, but possibly too unyieldy to use every day. Bad. Anyways, don't spend a lot of time on this. Just wondering if you experienced this. Bring it. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to share the actual, because I know this is too small for you guys to see. Let me see if I can share the actual thing here. And so what I found interesting about this is, and I'm sure Mitchell, you and Gator are probably gonna feel the same way about this, is that a lot of these like factors that he's trying to rate here, I don't know if this is that they are trying to rate here, is are stuff that I definitely kind of like bring into my equation of like, am I good to trade today? Is it time to stop trading? And I don't know if it's too small for YouTube people to see, like, am I, tired, or am I lacking of sleep? You guys heard me talk about that today, this week, a couple times, where I'm like, I'm tired today. I didn't get good sleep. And as soon as I'm like up money, I'm out. Morning accomplishments. If you're the type of person who has stuff that, if you don't live on the West Coast and you have time to do stuff before the market opens, you can write that. Listen to music the night before. I don't know. Maybe that puts this person in a good mindset. Watched a training video on psychology. Giant loss from the day before, or have a defeated feeling, toxicity, FOMO. And so it looks like what they're doing is they're assigning themselves like a plus or a minus. What I'm not clear on, and I haven't heard back because I had a question about this, is I don't think there's a defined number. I think that this person is assigning like, how bad like all these things are or how good they are to arrive at a number of like, and this person is -7 on the day, and they're saying that if it's less than -6, they want to stop trading. So other things we've got here is like outside events that are toxic, like clearly, like did you have like an argument with your spouse or family member? Do you have things going on in your life that are distracting? FOMO from stocks running away, emotions, green to red, then back to red. I talk about that all the time. Mitchell, you were just talking about that as well. So all of these things, I think, come into my like equation. And for me, I think I've been trading for long enough that I can kind of do this on the fly and without like a worksheet like this. And personally, I don't know that I would have time to take any trades if I was like kept taking breaks throughout the day to fill in all these numbers. But if you're trying to learn how to manage your psychology, I think that this can be a learning thing maybe for you. And maybe like maybe you're finding that throughout the day there are times when you need to step back, and this gives you like a way to like stop looking at charts for a second and like think about all these various factors. And the other thing I'm going to mention is that I love that this person has like a little like today's plan thing up here where they kind of summarize like what they're trying to do. I'm starting out the day fairly toxic, fragile, so I'm only going to have 5 trades, 2 hours, prioritize room callouts, stay away from Amazon, review trading plan, update toxicity score along the way. So I think all of these are great things to keep in mind. And I would suspect that the longer you trade, the less time you're going to spend filling out this worksheet, and the more you're just going to be able to do this stuff in your head, and you're going to recognize your what's happening with your psychology. I'm going to let you guys comment on this, and then I've got one more thing to talk about regarding this once you guys are done with your input.
Yeah.
Mitchell?
Go for it.
Or Gator?
Sure. So there's a lot of really good stuff in here. I mean, my recommendation, just from my own personal, what would help me is that I would try and simplify it, just because I found that because I do write down rules, that I try and trade by, and I find that the more simple I make them, and the more simple I have an outline going into the day, the more likely I am to follow it. Every time I start to get too complex with it and it just gets too long, I end up just not even really paying attention to it. So, like you were saying, CT, I am a little worried that something this complex may work in the short term, but over time it just becomes so time consuming to keep up with that it may cause you just to ignore it altogether. If there's a way to simplify it, I think that would be very helpful. But I do think it would be very helpful to have a scoring system like this, to where you go into a day and you're kind of tallying like where you are mentally, and whether you think you're, toxic or not. And because I've also struggled with having like a very set stop limit for the day, because there's been days where I hit, red $5,000, and if I had to stop there, I could have stopped, and I wouldn't have had a, bigger red day than that. But there's also been a good amount of red days where I hit 5,000 red, and then I'm able to catch myself, and then, an hour later I'm back green. So it is really hard to kind of set a hard stop on your day. So I do like this idea a lot of having some kind of tally system to gauge your toxicity. I would just have to go through it more and try and figure out a way to simplify it a little bit, just so I wouldn't, in the long term, be a little overwhelmed with it and start to ignore it just because it's so time consuming to keep track of.
Yeah, I agree. I've never experimented with anything specific like this. I do use trading rules. Like I do take notes sometimes in the morning or write something down on a on a pad. And I kind of do things like Mitchell was saying, I keep things simple. And my trading plans aren't even written out like you would think one of my kids wrote them when they could write or something. It's like, do this. It's like, be a man, or something. It's like, watch 2 minute and it's like, you didn't sleep good last night, or it's just something like that. Like I know myself in the sense of, if I sit down, as soon as I sit down in this chair, I have an idea of how I feel, and if I'm going into the day happy and good, if I'm going into it too happy and I need to calm down some, if I'm going into it too upset, or too stressed because, like, CT, you've got all the house moving stuff. I just had the purchase of a new home and all that stuff. So if I've got something like that going on, it's like, hey, you have this weighing on your mind. He wrote down, like you wrote down, or this individual wrote down these different things, listening to music, or maybe beforehand. Sometimes I'll turn on music before I trade. Are you tired? Did you not sleep? Have you just been stressed out? Did you get in a fight with somebody? Is there something non-trading related? Or is there even, are you even FOMO'd because you thought about taking a trade overnight and you didn't, and now it's going in your direction or something? That's not something I have, but that's something you could have as a trader. And after you've done this for a little bit, I just kind of sit down and I kind of know what I feel, and I'm like, okay, you need to do this. And sometimes it's like, you need to not trade for 5 minutes because you're not completely clear. Or, hey, no one and dones, and I'll write down like nothing for 5 minutes, or no one and dones, or no two and dones. Wait for market to go. And it's just a way to kind of slow myself down if I need to be slowed down. And then throughout the day, that's kind of the hard part. The throughout the day is like, I don't like hard stop losses. I do use them, and I've kind of started putting them in, and it makes me trade less aggressive early, which then has helped me stay green early, so I'm not really making back losses. Like if I'm red now, I'm red $1,000 to $2,000 instead of $8,000 to $10,000, and that's pretty easy to get back if you just are trading something and it comes back. And so if I'm down that, I'm like, okay, let's find good setups. And my way is a little bit like, I feel that, and it's like, hey, if I trade too much one day, one of my trading rules is, you traded too much tomorrow. Stop when you're up or stop early, and I'll just say something like that to myself out loud or write it down, and then I'll get up after 30 minutes, 45 minutes, go play with my kids, go do something else, come back and sit down, and I'll do kind of stuff like that to correct my emotions when I feel them. But I've never experimented with anything that's like a midday scorecard or a midday writing stuff down. I identify those things the next day or at the end of the day. It's like you were mad because you had to run upstairs because something was happening, or you were mad because of this or that. You shouldn't have been trading. And then I keep that in my head for the next time it happens. But
Yeah, and
yeah.
so that's kind of gets back to what I was saying, how like I feel like every category on here, like I think that we've been trading for long enough that we've had bad days where we can attribute them to one of these things. And so because we've had so much experience with like correlating these type of events with days when we didn't trade our best or didn't trade smart, that we have just internalized all of these rules. Whereas I think that this person is kind of trying to manage all these things. And I don't, it's I kind of get the feeling this is probably like a newer trader. I don't know, maybe not, but yeah, like all these things that are on this thing, I feel like are internalized. I could not like possibly manage something like this when I'm also trying to trade, and especially not like call things out and stuff like that. So, but I think that what is kind of interesting about this is for people to maybe look at this, and why I thought it might be fun to share this with the room is that like this is stuff that like probably Mitchell, you, Gator, and I we've had bad days that we can attribute to like all of these things. And so think about these things, and like one of my things I do is every time I have a bad day, I try to like to analyze the day and think like, how can I avoid this in the future? Oh, well, I had these like life situations going on, or I had this, thing happen the day before or whatever. And so when I have that happen again, I'm going to keep that in mind, and I'm going to use that to my advantage to trade smarter in the future. Because I'm of the opinion that if you have a solid trade plan and you're a decent trader, like anytime you have a bad day, like there's probably something you could attribute it to. And so, which means there's probably something you can fix. And honestly, the way I make myself feel better about a red day is I try to identify what I can change to avoid that in the future. And that makes me feel a lot better about a red day.
Yeah, one thing that has been enormously beneficial to me is the days that I get down decent red, the difference between turning that into like a huge blowout day and then being able to come back a little bit or even come back to green, is if when I do get down to a decent red level, whatever that may be, if I'm able to stop myself, get up, leave my computer, and take like a 20 to 30-minute break and just get my mind off of it, recollect myself, take a breather, and then come back. Because all of my big blowout days are when I get down decent red. Let's say it's like $5,000. And instead of just stepping away for a little bit and just reanalyzing the market, just taking a break for 30 minutes, I just stay at the computer and I'm trying, and I just get so toxic. And before you know it, you have a really bad blowout days. So that's my rule now, is if I get down red a few thousand, like maybe 3,000, 4,000, my rule is I have to stop, get up, and take like a 30-minute break, and then I can come back. And usually I'm much more collected by that point, and I can analyze the current market conditions and decide whether there's any opportunities to try and get back to green, or if I should just leave my day at that, which is fine, because it's really the big blowout days that eat into my account a ton and make it really hard to, sustain this long term. So I think that's really key for anyone, whether you have a hard stop loss or not, is to always at least have a rule in place where if you hit a certain number, you have to at least walk away for like 20, 30 minutes and just collect yourself because it's very beneficial.
Yeah, it is. And that's like there are days when I've walked away and I came back and sat down feeling so good that I traded. Like I just was like I was trading bad and I took 30 minutes like you said and I walked away. I came back and it's like I feel like a new person trading right now. It's like I see things differently.
And
Exactly.
I agree with both with what both of you guys are saying, but personally my plan going forward is that I'm going to try to really respect the hard stop because I suspect that all the days that I've like gone big red and clawed back, like I think that if I evened those out with like the days that I've gone bigger red, because I thought, oh, I can claw back from this, I think everything would be a wash. I don't necessarily think that like that the days where I've been down 4 grand and I've clawed back, if I take all those days and I add that up with like the few days that I've been down like 12, 13, 14 grand, which I haven't been a lot of days like that, but there's been a few of them. Like I think that it's sort of, I think that all of that would even out, and I think that maybe for me personally, I'm really going to try this thing out and I'm really going to try to like respect the hard stop. And, I like Geronimo has a hard stop and he's been trading 20 some odd years. And that was kind of one of the things that made me think, you know what, I think this might be an okay thing and I might be okay with that. The one thing I will say is that what I'm starting to realize is that you kind of just feel like, oh, well, I'm down, so much. Like if your hard stop is like 5,000 and you're down 2,500, well, I can still lose another 2,500. Like you need to not think like that. Like you need to think like, oh my God, I'm like ticking down red, like on like 2, 3 consecutive trades. Like clearly I don't have the advantage today that I normally have with the market. So, um, I'm trying to stop myself well before I get to my stop loss. If I'm just not like all this, if I'm not really able to like claw back consistently, I'm like, you know what? I'm like Mitchell, you were talking about how this week there's been days where you go like red to green to red to green. Like, yeah, that was me this week too on a few days. And that is absolutely the day when you just need to like be like, look, clearly like I'm not trading as consistently as like I normally am, or the market's not being conducive, and like you need to just call it a day, and like there'll be another day that's better than this.
Yeah.
And if I didn't lose my train of thought, I had one more thing, which is that I think once you get really consistent, like, and once you've been trading for a couple few years and like you're successful, like if you're red, there's probably something going on, right? Like with the
Mm-hmm.
market or with you, like you shouldn't be red in the first place, especially not like more than like 1 or 2 trades in a row. So like once you are consistent, like I think if you find yourself red, like step back and be like, wow, something's going on here. Like this is not like your average day, because my average day I'm green.
Yep. Sorry, I just went straight to you instead of this. You want to stop sharing your screen? I'll jump back to all of us.
Yes, indeed.
No, I agree, and I think that that's kind of the that having that in is a good thing. That's why I moved my stop loss down. I told Steve the other day, Peacock, that it's like my stop loss was 10 grand, and now it's 5 grand, and I haven't hit it since I moved it. And when it was 10 grand, I hit it not every day, but it's like if I went down, I was always at five. It was like it was just normal for me to be there, and now I'm not. And I'm like, I feel fine. Like I'm not stressed at all if I'm down a little bit, and like just trading at that level over like time and with consistency, I think has been good. And last month was choppy, and the month before that, like I had a great June January, blew out most of that in February. March was flat, and now April is green. And the change has been, other than my psychology that I've been changing and working on those longer holds, and some of those have been my biggest wins and plays and stuff, and slowing down. But it's like tightening my stop loss, being more like specific with some of the trades that I'm making. Like it's kind of shifted, and that's been a big help. And people like Geronimo and others, Kelly, who came on, talks about like writing your stuff down, having this thing, something I do that this person, and it's kind of like what Mitchell said, when you get up and walk away. At that point, I try to identify where I'm at mentally. And if I come back and sit back in the chair, I try to think of it as like a 0-0 game. So it's like you sit back down and you're like, how do I feel? And it's like, I'm still kind of itchy. It's like, okay, I'm just done. It's like, it's not happening today. Like, I'm logging off. I'm going to go do something else. And it's
And
just,
I think
yeah.
that you're and probably all of us are at a point where we could probably like effectively do that, come
Mm-hmm.
back and like kind of be like take a couple trades, small tier, and see how it works. But I think that if there's traders out there who are struggling, who really haven't found consistency yet, I don't recommend doing that. I think that
Mm-mm.
like having a hard stop is absolutely the thing to do, and like try not to hit it. Don't feel like you can. Oh well, I can hit that number today, every day or whatever that I have a red day. Try to stop yourself before you get there. Try to recognize that like if you are going red and you're even halfway there, like what's going on today exactly? That like you're halfway to your stop loss. Like that's
That's a good
something to think
point.
about.
That's what I mean. Like, I stop before I get there and I walk away and then decide if I
Yeah.
want to continue. It's like, I just don't feel it today. It's okay to have a
And
red day.
so the one last thing I'm going to say is I'm hoping this person is watching is that they mentioned that they're having trouble respecting their stop loss, and like that's not something to, in my opinion personally, that's not something to like find a workaround so that you can like not respect your stop loss by having like a worksheet. Like if you can't respect your stop loss, you need to like find a way to respect your stop loss. That's like a non-negotiable thing. Like you're going to wreck yourself if like those big days are going to add up over time and really eat away at your profits. So my personal opinion is find a way to respect your stop loss, and
Yeah.
that's my that's my final input on that.
Dude, I couldn't agree more. I don't. How did you do it, Like, do you just decided to do it in a sense, or is there something, Mitchell, that you looked at that was like, this helped me do it? Like, how did you learn to respect your rules?
Um, just having blowout days.
Yeah.
Just had enough of those where I realized I needed something. But yeah, I've been thinking about instituting a hard stop in my trading, and I may do it here at some point. But I guess in like you're saying, in some sense, if you are experienced and you can kind of gauge where the market is at once you've taken a break and come back, like you can kind of treat it like a new day, like you're saying, it's a 0-0 game. If you hit your, we call it a hard stop, but if you're coming back, it's not really a hard stop. If you hit that stop and you take an hour break and come back, it's almost like a new day if you have been successful in collecting yourself uh, and you come back and you're not toxic and you just are analyzing the current conditions to see if there are any opportunities to make some back, or if not, you just respect that stop. But I don't know, I'd probably, if I did get to 10 grand, that would probably be my actual hard stop, because anytime I've gotten to there, then it really turns into a bad day. I've never gotten red over 10 grand and then come back from that. It's always turned into a bigger red day or a blowout day. So I think once you hit 5-figure red, like having a hard stop place is a pretty good idea for most traders, even if they're really experienced. But I know you've had many days, Gator, where you hit like red 10 grand and you back from it in like 20 minutes. So I don't know how you do it, but
Used to
that's not my
trading
case.
30 and 50 contracts of Tesla will get you there. It was,
Yeah, I know. See,
uh,
yeah, if I trade 20, 30 contracts once I'm red 10 grand, like that'll be red 20 grand in the snap of fingers. So,
oh, I've had it.
um,
I've been there. I told Eddie. Eddie was like, when Eddie started trading, or when it was talking about going full time and stuff. Um, he was like, whatever. He asked me like, "What's your biggest winner?" And I said a number, and he's like, "Well, what's your biggest loser?" I was like, "Probably about 50 or 60 grand." He's like, "What, in a day?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, yeah, it was a bad day. That's fine. I made it. I said I made it back in
yeah,
2 days after that, and that was when the market
yeah,
was like that. Like, it didn't even scare me to be down 50 grand in a day. Now that day it did. It was a bad day, but like I wasn't scared for my account. I wasn't scared for my overall part of trading. It was just like, eh. And now I'm limiting myself to 5K. If you guys want to know like where I was to where I'm trading now, is because I think this is sustainable. Like, and that's why I'm doing it. I think this is sustainable. I don't think blowing out 30 to 50 grand on your bad days is sustainable. Like, I just don't think it is mentally, emotionally, anything else. And it wasn't for me. And so I was like, I'm tired of this. And so this is part of that change. It's like, I don't like being there. It's like, I'm not scared that I can't make it back. But on a day like today, when you have a grindy market with ATRs under $1, even in Google and Amazon, like, or at $1, it's like, how much size I would have to take to make that money back, and how long and I'd have to hold, and what I would have to do. Like, there's too much risk there. And so that risk management comes in when you're going to do this full time. So
Yeah, and like for me, I think the psychology of like, oh, I'm gonna claw back from this, like I think it's, for me personally, I find it to be, I think, healthier to my psychology long term to stop myself and just walk away versus like, it really, I mean, it takes it out of you, man. Some of those days when you're clawing back and it takes like hours and hours, or you spend your entire day clawing back, and then it's like you just don't feel as good the next day. It's like that's when this job turns into work, man. Like not just like, yeah. So that's the way I feel about it.
And
Yeah, that's a good point.
tell this person to check out, or maybe, so I'm going to start cutting videos that are long, because my videos are really long because they're just long form conversations. But in the JR video we did last week, me and JR talk about this, about risk management, professional traders doing this. So if he has the time to watch a 2.5 hour video, it's probably about an hour in or more. Me and JR actually probably talk for about 15 minutes or more on this, and what you actually do when you break a rule. And I think it was that video. I don't know if anybody in the comments could tell me if it was that video or not. But once you break a rule that you set for yourself, like, I can't even remember what I was saying. I like the psychology and stuff came to my head at the time, but you're cheating yourself. You're like making a law, a rule, and then when you get to that point, you are saying to yourself, like, you're not respecting yourself. You're not respecting your own rules you set in your place. You're throwing everything out the window at that point. It's like everything is gone. And I can't remember exactly what I said or what JR said about it, but once you break a rule trading, all bets are out the window. Once you start tearing out your rules, everything is gone. Your good trading is gone. All of it's gone. You're done once you start doing that.
And what I've found is that the more like I'm starting to be really hard about my rules and really like not having those be negotiable, the more I'm hard on myself when I break a rule. Like where it used to be like, oh, it's fine, I'm like a little bit past my stop loss, but I'm gonna take one more trade, and then if it's green, then I'll try to like keep climbing back. You make all of these freaking like you convince yourself of all these things, and I don't think that that's really healthy, but like especially when market conditions aren't great. So and what I've found personally in the past like few weeks, when I'm starting to get back to having like rigid rules and whatnot, which I haven't really had since I was a beginner trader, like that the more you stick to those rules, the more disciplined you get like over time, and the more crappy you feel about yourself when you break one. And that's a good thing in my opinion. Like you should feel crappy if you break a rule that you made for yourself. It's your own fucking rule, man. Like if you can't follow your own rules, like
exactly.
Yeah, it's like you're only cheating yourself. You're only hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Which goes back to why I think it's important to try and keep your rules somewhat simple, because if you make them too complex, the chances you're going to break them are way higher. The more simple you keep them, the more likely you are able to follow them. And so I think it's always important to, keep them simple, try and read through them each morning before the market opens, and don't make it too complex. And don't be, try and be somewhat rigid, but not too rigid.
Yeah, and again, this gets back to like, so for you new traders out there who are struggling, what's the simplest rule you can possibly have for yourself? Don't lose a certain amount of money. Like how, like, that's the simplest rule you can possibly follow. Like, once you get to a certain point, you got to stop. And so, like, we were talking about how we massage things as more experienced traders. Like, if you're struggling and you're like trying to figure out how to manage your business plan, like, that is the single most simple rule. And again, like, that's one you need to be able to manage. That will get you into trouble.
It will hardcore. You have to treat this like a business. This isn't a game if you're going to do this full time. Like, I kind of gamify the money sometimes. I have to. Like, I'm not thinking I'm throwing the money at it, but you do have to have a level of like business plan for what you're doing. This is your livelihood if you do this full time. Like, for all of us here, this is the only way I make money. It's like YouTube's not paying me, you know. Other than the crazy check that I get from Discord, we all pay each other. We just rotate.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe so we could get paid, suckers. No, it's like, it's like this is the way I make my money. It's like, this is a business. I have to run it like that. And discipline, like, who knows athletes? Like, who's done like athletic things? There are people that are naturally gifted at something. And you could be like, oh, Gator, you're a naturally gifted trader. Mitchell, you're a naturally gifted trader. I don't know how long you traded before you came into T3 and kind of got successful. But, people could be like, oh, you started in April and then or the end of 2020 and then you went full time. So, like, oh, you're a naturally gifted trader. It took me 10 years. CeeTee, and all this. Okay. The disciplined trader, the disciplined athlete will eventually beat the more gifted athlete that doesn't train. And it's just
dedication can trump like natural ability, like in the long haul. Is what I think where you're going with that, right, Gator?
Yep.
And I concur.
It's like, yeah, sure. You might not be like 6 months in and print like a $50,000 day or something. It's like, oh, well, somebody posted it on Instagram, or Gator said he made 30 grand today. He had his first 5-figure day. And who cares? Like, who cares? But if you're consistent, it's like, yeah, you might not do that in 6 months, but that's not the measure of success. And then 6 months later, Gator's not trading anymore because he was trading in a manner that allowed him to blow up, and he was just going heavy in a bull market. Get where we're kind of going with that. It's like CeeTee said, that discipline and training that discipline to respect the rules you make for yourself that you need to be successful is what's going to get you there. It's what's going to keep you there. I couldn't trade like I did last year and make money now.
I also think that like especially like when you're first getting into trading, you're susceptible to this mindset of like, you're just like, oh my God, like I'm successful, like I'm just going to scale up and I'm just going to be huge, like so fast.
Yeah.
And like the longer you trade for, the more you realize like you're just going to be happy with this being a job, because it's a very chill job. So obviously we all want to make a lot of money, but like this, you temper your expectations with market conditions, and you realize that actually, having a very comfy living doing this, like even if it's not like, super wildly wealthy like level, like it's pretty chill, and you're very lucky to be doing this, and you're very lucky to not be like going into work every day and working for somebody else.
Yeah.
Count your blessings.
Tempering your expectations is key, because last year was a historic bull market, going into June and all those months. Like, there was just nonstop green days in the queues. We would hit all-time highs. We'd have like a small pullback. We'd hit all-time highs again, small pullback, all-time highs. And it's so easy just to train yourself and get in that mode of just sizing up and slamming these setups. And when the conditions change, like they did coming into this year, you better be ready to change with it, or else you'll get killed and you'll just blow out your account. So the faster you can recognize those conditions change and adjust, and like you're saying, temper your expectations and not expect to make a certain amount of money or get attached to making a certain amount, the far more successful you'll be in the long term.
Yeah, the good market conditions will come and go, and that's when you can really like rack up the savings. And then I feel like the rest of the time, being fortunate enough to pay the bills is pretty nice. to anybody who's worked other I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've worked like crappy jobs like when I was a kid. Like I've done a lot of stuff, and this is absolutely the best job I've ever had. So.
Yeah, I haven't like I mean Marine Corps and then as a purchasing agent before I did this, but Mitchell, I don't know what you did before, but it was like this is pretty good.
I worked at a consulting firm and I hated every second of it. So this is a huge improvement. So
And you know what I love
I'll leave it
about
at that.
at this room? CT, Mitchell, me, Rose, Peacock, everyone that's doing this in here. You know what we all have in common? None of us are scammy gurus with like Lamborghinis that are doing, like I'm a scammy guru, I guess, because I have a YouTube channel, but I'm not a guru. But like we're not. It's just normal people, and you can learn this if you take the time to do it and be disciplined. Rose was a trucker. Mitchell, you did consulting. CT, you've been an entrepreneur. Like I was a Marine and then like a pencil pusher for a little bit. It's like there are so many different people in here with stories similar to ours. We're not special. We're just the guys on the mic and whatever. But like we don't. It's how to say. There's not really a big secret to this. Like some people are like, oh, buy my $10,000 course or my $1,000 course. I'm not saying there's not good stuff there and none of it works. Yeah, sure. There's good stuff out there that you can pay for to learn, but it's not extremely complicated in my opinion.
I think the one qualifying factor, like it's not like you need this special skill or this special like formula. It's discipline. You need to be disciplined to like start out small and not lose your capital. You need to preserve your capital, which takes a lot of discipline. You need to be disciplined enough to track what you're doing, to like constantly learn new stuff, because this isn't a job where you just learn it and cool, I can just keep doing this strat forever. Like you're probably going to have to keep tweaking your strat for the rest of your career. So the thing that I think we all have in common is that we found a way to be self-disciplined in our craft, and we are constantly trying to evolve. We're constantly finding ways to keep our businesses operating smoothly. And so I think that even though we all come from diverse backgrounds, I think that the one qualifying thing that we all share is we found the way to discipline ourselves to find success long term, which is really that's the thing I think that you need to have if you're trying to get into this. Is That's number one. Mitchell?
Yeah, you'll notice with all the scammy gurus you'll see in YouTube ads and stuff is it's always the same thing. It's like, oh, sign up for this ebook for free and you can learn this strategy that's made me $3 million. And it's always like they're selling you this rigid strategy. And what happens is when people actually start trading, you realize, sticking to one specific strategy rarely works. You have to constantly adapt with the market. And that's why I think I appreciated being in Mark Melnick's room so much with T3, is that he was constantly saying that, the market's adapting. Okay, fine, we'll adapt with it. 1 minute breakouts aren't working. Fine, we're going to switch to 2 minute green take reds or red take greens. And it was this constant adaptation to where we were gauging current market conditions and finding what was working and then changing our focus to that, rather than being rigid with these strategies that every scammy guru always tries to sell you and tell you will get you rich quick. But when you actually start trying to implement them, you'll find sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And if you're not adapting, this won't be sustainable long term at all.
There's finesse involved in all the strategies.
And when it comes to you just need to learn this one thing, and then you can any strategy that can be laid out in hard terms, and is that simple or is that rigid? Somebody's going to program an algo or an AI to do that, and it's not going to work forever. So anything that you can clearly define, to the point that someone can program it, isn't going to work for very long. So that's what you have to keep in mind. And that's why we're constantly having to change things, because there's probably quant engineers out there watching our show, seeing how we trade, trying to figure out how to program an algorithm.
One step ahead of us.
Yep. Let's be honest, dude. This is their research.
Yep.
is they're seeing how day traders are being successful. Oh, how can I like incorporate this into my existing conditions? Like I don't think that's a stretch to think that the people out there who are, coming up and doing the programming are like, combing the internet to see what people have found that works.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have no doubt there are people out there that do stuff like that. Like I showed some people some of this stuff um, once, and they were like, "Oh, I could program a computer to do that." I'm like, I mean, I guess. Like I can't, so good on you. But you do have to always adapt, and
Well,
that's
and if it can you really program a
yeah, it's
computer
like
to do that? I challenge anybody. I mean, I think you need to like
yep.
this is like the arena of like MIT engineers with like backing. You know what I'm saying? To like set this kind of stuff up. Like this is not like maybe when the market was totally Momo, like
Mm-hmm.
Mitchell, what you're talking about, when it was just like, oh, Mark ones just work nonstop and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
all this, like, yeah, that's something you can program, but as soon as like it's not just grinding up every day, I think it's very challenging to program something to work off of a set number of rules because clearly like there's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people out there who are really good at math and probably really good at trading who are trying to do the exact same thing. So like,
Yeah, Pablo
I don't
right
know.
there. He says he's been trying to do it for several years.
So, yeah.
Yo, let me know when you get it figured out, and we'll start an
Yeah.
LLC, and we'll
Send
all
us the
put
code.
money in. We'll all put money into the LLC, so we all just, and we'll just get a cut of it every month. So you let me know, Pablo, when you get that figured out. I mean, it's something. There's some smart people out there, but usually when people say that, I just look at them. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. No, whatever you say, dude, is usually kind of my response to that.
What's been working for me well lately? I know this is something you've done a lot too, Gator. I mean, like you're saying, CT, there was months last year where just like the Mark One would work, and then there would be another Mark One, and you take it and it work again. But lately, with 1 minute setups, 2 minute setups, 5 minute setups, often it'll trigger and then whip down, and then maybe the second retest goes, or maybe the second retest whips down, then the third one goes, or the third one whips down, and the fourth one goes. It gets kind of exhausting trying to figure out which one's going to work. And sometimes, like, I'll take a front run loss, and then maybe the next one works and I make more, it's fine. But often I'll take a front run loss and another front run loss. And then by that time, I'm like, am I really going to try this a third time? Am I really about to risk taking a third front run loss on this setup? And so what's been working is instead of trying to like play those setups, is to follow the trend. So let's say Tesla's selling in that moment in that day. To find like a Mark One setup like that, but instead of trying to play that Mark One, wait for a pop to come through like a 1 minute breakout or a 2 minute breakout in the reverse direction. Be watching the level two, and the second it fails and starts to pull down, jump in, and that way you have a really good entry, and it comes down, and if it comes back up to that level, you can sell out, break even, that's fine. But often it'll start to come down and you're already green on the trade, so you're not toxic. It makes it way easier to hold, and then you can hold through some of the grindiness and whip around the actual trigger before it actually flushes through it, because you never know whether the first one's going to go, the second one, the third or fourth one, and because it's been so difficult lately. So waiting for those false reversals, whatever you want to call it, and entering there. And I know you've talked about that in your show before, Gator. That's been really helpful and makes it way easier to hold rather than trying to play the actual trigger and breakdown.
And you did that great today. Like you were calling, you're like, I'm gonna buy like at this level when it fails, and it was something, and it actually might have been this play. I think it was because I made money on it, you made money on it, but this is on a 2 minute chart, and you can see it on my thing. And what Mitchell is saying, it's what I do a lot. It's what others do. It's like if I think Tesla is gonna fail here, you had a green bar, it's up here. Who knows what you did in here? But let's say, it never broke down. Let's say you actually followed the rule and you wanted it to actually break. It didn't break, it popped. Okay, so this candle broke and then failed. So let's say you take that and you either make a quick buck or you get shuck out when it goes higher. Instead of trying to play this again, unless you do play the second or third one, if this candle opens up here at the top of this candle at 96.84, This candle opened at 96.93. So it basically failed to break out, if you see where my cursor is at. So as soon as at the top of this candle, I now have a stop loss. It's like, I think Tesla's going down. For whatever reason at this point, let's say pretend you were trying to short it and you thought it was going short and you were confident in your play. Where's my entry? You had a failed breakdown. Where can my entry be? Well, I want a 2-minute candle to fail a breakout. So I am going to take it like this candle opens, it goes up a little bit through 96.93 and then starts pulling down below 96.84. So you basically realize right away you have a failed 2-minute breakout. It failed to go higher. I'm going to take that short right away. Now, if it pops above 97, it's like, okay, obviously it didn't work. I now have this much risk. It's like I have 50 cents risk, 20 cents risk.
Yeah, like 50 cents max. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, but now you have all of this, and between here, this is $94. So 97 to 94, you're 3 points up before you get to the point where this one failed again. So when somebody's like, "Oh, I'm buying right here," yeah, sure, they're still going to make money on this specific candle, but you got in up here, and you're already green, deciding if you want to sell or hold. And this is a chart example of what Mitchell said. I'm just repeating what he said with the visual of this chart.
Yeah, exactly. And the key is, like you're saying, you're waiting for that failed 2-minute breakout because the trend right now in this moment is selling. So you're bearish, you're looking for a short setup. And so you're watching that 2-minute breakout, waiting for that to fail. And the key is, as that 2-minute breakout is triggering, if the tape is rapidly accelerating and you're seeing buying come in, like definitely do not play that, because you could get caught in a big whip up and take a sizable loss. Like what you want to see is it goes through the breakout, like 20 cents, 30 cents, not that much. There's not a lot of buying. The tape isn't that fast, and the tape just kind of levels out. And then just as it starts to tick down a little bit, you just jump in and just place your stop like just a little bit above where you got in. And the risk is, it almost always immediately pulls back down below the trigger. And so you're already a little bit green on the trade. And so your risk is minimal. You can sell out if it comes back up and the tape starts to speed up at all. But yeah, the key is studying the tape. And if it's rapidly accelerating, you see a lot of buying come in, definitely do not try that strategy, because it could be getting a huge pop to the 2-minute, and then maybe there's a 5-minute breakout right above that. It could go through that, and it could whip up 3 points in your face in 10 seconds.
Yep. That's the key that you added there, is the tape reading part of it, is you really have to get used to watching level 2. And I use Fidelity, James, and I assume y'all use it.
Yeah, I mean, James, we've got people in the room who are on IB, Fidelity, E-Trade. All the platforms are relatively similar as far as like the level 2 is concerned. So find a platform that works for you. The one thing I'll add to what you guys are talking about there with buying the failed breakouts and stuff like that, or like going short on a failed long breakout is, and I think that you guys all do this, but it's worth pointing out that this is where having multiple time frames up can be useful, because let's say that there's like a 5-minute candle right at the top of that level there. You want to keep an eye on that, because that might be somebody's stop for their short. So if even it might tick above there and start triggering people's like stops and they start short covering. So that's a time that's like, in addition to what Gator and Mitchell are talking about, also keep an eye on, other possible things that could trigger people's stops in either direction, so that you can make sure that you don't just gradually tick up and then all of a sudden buying comes in because people are short covering. And I know we all do that, but I just thought I'd point it out.
And real quick, because my thing just said battery low, if this dies, I'm going to try to get my other mic to work. It doesn't work a lot. So if that does happen, I'll figure something out. I'll probably have to go to something else to work this to get it in, or I'll plug my iPhone in. But if I die off, you two can talk for a second. CeeTee, I know you're going to have to go soon. It's been 90. So.
I mean, I don't have to, but I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know. Like, it's been an hour and a half we've been going. But I was just saying, like, you want to. And I wanted to add something there, and hopefully I don't die. Or, sorry, did somebody ask? Or, sorry, go ahead, Mitchell. Did you have something? I'm just going over to the time frames really quick to show what CeeTee was
No.
talking about.
So someone say Blade Man saying, especially on 15-minute breakouts. Yeah, like CeeTee's saying, you really have to at all times when we're trying these setups have. I mean, obviously, we're almost always watching the 1 and 2 minute because that's where the most you see the most. It paints the biggest picture, but or not biggest picture, but most active picture. But you have to have the 5-minute, 15-minute, hourly candles there accessible so you can know these levels because a lot of volume can come through those, and 30-minute too, ideally, if you have enough screen real estate.
Yep. And looking at this, so like here, what CeeTee would be saying is that was, where was that? This is the 2 minute down here. So that was, I don't remember where it was at. That was here. So where are you at? You've got the 1 minute 21. So this is now a 1 minute, pretty much 21 short. You have a failed 5 minute breakout. So you're not breaking out higher necessarily. It's actually that 5 minute candle is now going red. So you're failing a 5 minute breakout. So you have that going for you. You're at VWAP on the 15, and you're at the start of the 15. So that you take all that into account. And this is the charts I have up when I have a 4 time frame chart, and I move this over to an hour sometimes. Yeah. So I've got.
Well, and the side benefit of that is that sometimes when you're checking your higher time frames, you realize, oh wow, like even though this looks great on a smaller time frame, that's a little scary 15-minute candle there, or that's like a really scary hourly candle. Maybe I want to look at a different name.
Yep. I'm just prepping. So how do y'all got? So I got a question, and I'll let you two jump in, on this while I try to get my audio fixed so I can have audio on the YouTube show. Otherwise, we'll have to cut it, or it'll be the Mitchell show. Mitchell, you've got it for the rest. You're now Gator. Your new name is Gator. So I got a question. I don't want to say their name because I didn't ask them if I could use it, but there's nothing here specifically about them. So after watching the video I did last night, they were thinking about doing a follow-up on assessing the exit targets for longer holds. And I'll even say this for the shorter holds for CeeTee because I know you do shoulder holds. So assessing your exit target. So I mentioned last night rules and targets. Like you have 4 or 5 rules within a trade and all this. You go back and watch last night's show. But in a short of that, I defined what I would say as my trading strategy for every trade that goes through my OODA loop in my head in a course of 2 seconds or something. What you kind of need to have a successful trade idea. How to identify those exit, and this person said that they're generally comfortable holding longer in theory, but when hindsight, when he looks back at his longer holds, his exit targets aren't really well defined. Like if you're getting stopped out, it's well defined, but his actual what he's trying to do isn't defined. He's just in a trade and up, and it's just going. He's like, okay, I'll sell now, which is probably a lot of us sometimes. And he says he's going to hold this one longer. It's just like, I'm going to hold this longer. That's his approach to his longer holds, which and since a lot of us come from C strategies, hyper scalping mindset, how have we adapted and set up targets like a target point? Like if you were shorting Tesla, how would you develop this target exit on a trade that you hold longer? Or even for CeeTee, there are some trades you hold a little bit longer, but how do you develop your? I'll start with you because it's shorter.
Yeah, and so if you can, I screen first share for 1 second.
Yeah.
Or is that gonna? Okay, because I did. Okay, so
boop,
share screen, the top screen.
And then I'm gonna try to get my audio working.
Okay, cool. So I'll pull up a. What are we gonna do here? One chart here.
And Mitchell, you can screen share too after this if you do want to, or you didn't hear me. You can screen share too if you want to. If you want to show your charts.
Okay, cool. My chart is up.
Yep,
okay, so I'm just gonna let's just look at a chart here. So let's look at Facebook here at the open, for instance. We've got like big wicks going both directions. It's a lot of chop, not a very clearly defined pattern. Like this is not the time that I would be trying to make any kind of a long hold. This is like volatility zone right here. So then like when you see me taking something that like I'm gonna try to hold for a minute, I'm looking for action like this, where we've got very clearly defined patterns that are reacting to moving averages. And it's like clean action. So let's say I'm watching Facebook coming down through here, and I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to try, taking a short off of the 2-minute 21 here. We're on a 2-minute chart in case that's not clear.
Charging battery.
And what's my
Mic
target going to be?
feedback off.
So this
Mic
is not
off.
something that I came up with
Mic
my own. We've learned
feedback
this from
on.
other people.
Mic on.
So, what I might do is do this thing here, which I think Geronimo is the one who taught me how to do this. And then we copy this here. Duplicate this. So boop, boop, boop. Okay, so great. So I'm going to take that short. Let's take this measured move here off of here. And it doesn't quite get there, but at least this gives me a ballpark figure of like what I might be able to expect for in that next move, and might give me some conviction to hold for a little bit longer. And interestingly enough, this brings us to, wow, I didn't even notice this. Okay, and like this purple line, or this blue line here, is actually the prior day's low in Facebook. So you can see how we got stuck there for a little
I've got a
bit.
crying baby. Sorry, so go ahead. I got a crying baby. I'll be right back.
So something like this, where you know what your entry is going to be, and you're trying to think of like
Charging
reasonably
battery.
what you should be trying to hold for, and something to like think in your mind, like I'm going to try to hold for this. Like this is, one of those things you can do. And again, like if we look at this next move, let's say you were going to take the entry off of this 21 test right here. So let's duplicate this again here. And, go from your, and, what are we doing here? I kind of screwed this up. There we go. Boop. And this one here is the one I'm trying to move. So great. Then down here, we're going to go for this measured move down here. And again, it doesn't quite get there, but at least it gives you conviction to hold through some of this chop. And like maybe what you do is you sell out 80% of your position here, scalp out of that quickly, and hold the other 20%, knowing that, you're still going to be green on the trade. And, this is, that's how I would approach this. Mitchell, I know that you don't have control of the screen right now, but is there anything you would like to comment on along those lines, looking at this?
Yes. That is, if I had to pick one thing that I've been struggling with most in my trading, is figuring out when to take profits, because I've been doing a lot of longer holds with lower size, and sometimes I'll be doing like a fib trade and I'll have a great entry, and maybe my plan is to take all my profits at the 127.2 extension, and maybe the trade's working out really well. I'm up 2 points, I'm up 3 points, but I'm like, I have a plan in place. I'm taking all my profits at this target. I'm trying to catch this move. I don't have, a ton of size. This isn't too stressful of a hold. But sometimes that'll fail. I think it happened to me earlier this week, where I was up like 3 or 4 points on a trade, and I was waiting for the 127 fib because I was pretty confident it was going to hit. And sure enough, this is when Tesla blew over the $1,000 whole number. Maybe that was Tuesday or something, but it had a huge whip down and dropped like 12 points in like 2 minutes or something. And my stop loss hit, and I ended up basically breaking even on the trade, and I never even took the profits on it. So I've decided when I'm in these longer hold trades, if I do have a target, let's say it's the 127.2 extension or something like that, once I'm up a few points, like even just 2 points, like I need to at least take some profits, whether it's a quarter of my position or a third, just so I know that if this trade does end up failing and it comes back to break even and I sell out, I at least took a portion of those profits and I made some money on it, because you can get pretty toxic when you were up a lot on a trade. And I don't know if I'd call it greedy, since I did have a plan in place, but I guess maybe that is greedy in some sense. But I think once you're just up a few points, if the plan is to have a longer hold, obviously if we're doing hyper scalping, it's a totally different strategy. But when you're doing these longer holds, once you're up at like 2 points or something, at least cut off some of your position to remove the toxicity and lock in some profits, and then hold the rest or runner for your actual target. I'm finding that is much more beneficial when I do that for my mental state.
I think that's a great idea, and I think that the biggest struggle those of us who are learning this stuff are having is that usually when we're taking these longer term holds, we're doing it with small size, and so it's hard to peel off some of that. If it's if you're in Amazon and you've got, say, 2 contracts that you're trying to hold for a big move, like you peel off one of them, and it's I think once we're more experienced with these things, we'll be, it's going to be easier, but we're at that learning stage. So it's hard to find the right rules that work for us. That's pretty much it for my screen share, Gator. If you want to, I don't know, maybe Mitchell has something to share or you do.
Well, you just have to.
Yeah,
For yours,
I was just
drop.
looking at like measured moves
Yeah.
and how this is clearly like a clearly defined trend here where everything's moving clean, it's not choppy. And again, this is the stuff I miss out on. This is later in the day. This is not like what things looked like earlier in the day. Like, and I don't know if like I didn't even look at Tesla later today to see what it looked like, but you know, even in Tesla, you've got these. Let's say you're buying this green takes red here. Like again, you could use that. This is a pretty clean test of the 8. Like, and if you're in that and you take 5 contracts or whatever, and you want to sell scalp out of 4, you can do this thing that didn't Geronimo? He was the one who taught us like this like little technique. Gator.
Yeah,
Right
he came on the show and was talking about how he gets those levels.
Yeah,
which
so
is
maybe
basically
this gives.
do it
So
from
like
the
maybe.
breakout. Do it from the breakout of the red candle.
Okay, so from there, and that gives you some confidence to hold. And I guess if we're going to do it from the breakout, we would adjust this one as well, right?
I guess. I mean, you'd say from when the move when you got in. Yeah, you could do it that way. I would do it from the breakout of that the green candle there, and then
I'm
duplicate
kind of treating it like a fib in the sense that
Yeah.
it starts from the bottom, and maybe that's not. That's again, like, this is an art
It
form,
could,
not a
yeah.
science.
Well, and both
So
of them work because notice both of them you won in. And it's not about catching the whole move, it's about creating a realistic target. It's not about, oh man, if I would have drawn the line like this, I would have made an extra 3 points. It's like you had a target. And if you drew the line at the bottom and that's your target because it's a safer one and you're fine with that, then that's fine. Like,
And actually, I'm going to zoom in on this to elaborate on what you're talking about there, Gator, which is that let's just move this out of the way here for a quick second. So as a scalper buying this breakout, like, okay, so we see some volume coming in here, and we're like, this is classic, sort of know your limit 8 / Mark 1 setup here. So it comes down here. And so it's coming down, it starts to go back up. And so maybe we're getting in here and, we've got our defined stop down here. And as a scalper, like, I might want to be out on this pop when it starts to stall right here, right? So let's say I take 5 contracts, like that would be a good place to sell 4 of them, because honestly, I don't want to be holding a full size position when this happens. Like, this is not going to be fun because you might be close to break even, or if it whips down, you're going to like actually lose on that trade. So this can at least give you the confidence to hold that last little bit of your trade for a longer hold and give you like a rough idea of where you can go. And on that last trade we were looking at on Facebook, like we had this is just, I think, you have to be able to like to recognize when things are starting to move in a clean manner versus like all this trash over here, which like I'm not trying to hold for a long time when you've got like top and bottom wicks like that and things are messy like that. So that's what I got on that topic, and I will relinquish control of the screen.
I'll jump back to this one. Actually, hopefully I didn't mess it up. When I had the video going on earlier, I ran off to get one of the kids, and I think I might have bumped something and thrown the screen wrong, but hopefully people could see that.
Oh, great. I was...
No, they could see it, but I think they saw it through, like where we're at now. So I think I screwed something up there, but you guys saw it after the fact. Mitchell, how do you, since you're just, I mean, you two are kind of getting into this like I am, the longer stuff, the targets and stuff. Do you have targets, or are you just like, you said 127, and I heard you talking. I didn't know if I missed anything, so I'm not trying to double ask you to say something twice. But did you kind of give how you?
Yeah, can I share my screen real quick?
Yep.
I was gonna give an example of what I was just talking about on a trade on Tuesday. I'd called out.
Yeah, hit share, and I'll jump it over.
All right. So this is on monitor 2. Okay. I haven't done this before, so
you're good. You just
are you seeing my screen?
Yep. You just look at Zoom. You're good. Everybody can see your screen. You just
okay. Can you see my mouse there?
Yep.
Moving?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. So this was on Tuesday. I called it out in chat. So this was at the end of the day. The ATR was very low. Market was pretty grindy. Like if you see the candles right here, these are 2-minute candles. Those are small candles. Here's the open at Wednesday. So we're at the end of the day. So Tesla had started flushing here. and the market seemed weak. The Qs are pretty weak. They're trending down. I had a pretty good feeling Tesla was going to retest day lows. Day lows were right here, which was about $88.20. And so Tesla's coming down, and it pulls up to the 2-minute 21 here, which is just, the 2-minute 21 is kind of golden for us. We're always watching for that. And it was that similar strategy to what we were talking about earlier, where I'm just glued to the level 2. I know the 21 is 993.75, so I'm waiting for that to print. Ideally, when you're that close to a whole number, you want it to just pump just over the whole number, wait for the level 2 to level out. Again, you don't want the tape accelerating, or else you could get caught in the whip. I entered in, and then I think I'd taken like 6 contracts in this one, so it wasn't too light tier. But when I entered that position, I was pretty confident that Tesla was going to make a run to day lows. However, once this 2-minute 21 worked really well. I mean, usually they chop around for a little bit on the 2-minute 21. This one was like the first 2-minute breakdown. It just started flushing.
That's like a painless hold.
yeah, exactly. This one was very easy. It doesn't always work that easy. But what had happened is, as it started flushing, I have my 6 contracts, and I'm thinking, well, I'm pretty confident Tesla is going to flush to day lows, but is it really smart for me to just be stern and hold these 6 contracts all the way to day lows? Maybe I should start just piecing out a little bit as it flushed. And that's what I did. I took like 2 contracts, like somewhere around here, and then I took 2 contracts somewhere around here, and then I took 2 contracts as the bigger flush came through day lows. And I remember as the trade was done, I was out of all 6 contracts. I remember thinking, well, this trade works so well. I mean, look at this chart. Like, I should have held all 6 through day lows, but then I caught myself and I was like, but I mean, was that the smart thing to do? Like, sure, I didn't make as much as I could have, but I made on each position or each portion I sold, and I felt like I traded that move really smart, and so I wasn't toxic at all. If I would have held all 6, and let's say it flushes down here, like it's a great trade, and then the Qs have a big pump. Later in the day, sometimes the Qs will just have these crazy reversals and last like 30 minutes or so, last hour. If it would have done that and came way up and I would have hit my stop loss, I would have been toxic from that. But piecing out portions of that position, even though I was pretty confident it was going to run all the way to day lows, even though I didn't make as much as I could, I wasn't toxic from that at all. So going back to the importance of when you do get up on these positions, like, you really should start to piece out portions of your position, because it's a smart thing to do. You're locking in profits. That's what Kelly does. Even though he has all these fib targets, you'll notice as he gets up on these trades, you'll say like out 1/4, out another fourth. That's what experienced traders do, and that's what I'm starting to learn, because there's been a lot of trades lately in 2022 where I would have held the whole position if I was trying to do a longer hold, and maybe it reverses on me and I end up making nothing on it or taking a tiny loss because it hits my stop loss. So yeah. And then the other thing you were asking about the fibs, if I am fibbing a leg and I have a good entry on like a 38.2% retracement or something like that, usually I will the target for my runners will be the 127 fib, because I feel like the 138.2 fib is the one a lot of people are watching. And so I think this is the reason, I think Kelly's talked about this, the reason he takes it at 127 is because his hit rate is way higher doing that, because a lot of people are holding for the 138 fib or even the 161, which is usually where a lot of people take their profits. And so by taking the profits at 127, you're guaranteeing that your hit rate will be a lot higher rather than trying to hold for those bigger moves. And when your hit rate's higher, you have a lot more confidence to continue to take these trades in the long term. You probably end up making more money than trying to hold for bigger moves like that.
And it's important to note that sometimes moves keep going after Kelly is out of something. He's not like FOMO and like, man, I wish I got that. Like, it hit his target. His trade was accomplished. He is done. I'll jump back over here. Was I on the right one there, guys? Y'all could see.
No, you were. And oh my God.
Yeah, I just clicked stop here.
Okay, you clicked stop. That's what it was.
Mitchell's like reversal of like the 8 and 21 colors. I was just like,
Oh, I know. Yeah, I was thinking about that because everyone has it. I don't know why I like the 21 as yellow. Everyone has the 8 is
it's
yellow,
so
21 is
strange to
blue.
look at a chart
Yeah.
like that because it's
I don't
exactly
know.
the same colors but
No, I know.
reversed.
Yeah.
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 I think when I first started trading and I was setting up my charts like Mark Melnick's, I had accidentally put the 21 as yellow reverse to his, and I just
And
got
just got
used to
used to
that.
it.
And
Yeah.
now, like, I have to have the 21 as yellow. I couldn't have it any other way.
Oh, that's funny.
I should have mentioned that when I was doing this. Yeah, that probably made it really confusing for everyone.
But that's good. And that's like that. I bet on those last two contracts though were incredibly easy to hold.
Yes, when I was up on the four, I'd already sold, and now I'm only down to two contracts. Like no stress at all. I'm like, hopefully this works. I think it's going to work. If it pulls back to my stop, whatever, I don't even care. Like this is a smart trade, and there's no stress involved. If I was holding the whole position, I would be stressed. Like, should I take profits? Should I take profits? Should I take profits? So piecing out like that, just removes stress, and removing stress from trading should be the long-term goal of everyone. I think that's way more important than how much you're making in a certain day or anything like that.
Because
Here,
those,
here.
yeah. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers to that.
Pinky raise. Cheers.
Whoosh.
My last sip there.
There you go. But it is. It's like when you trade like that intelligently, and if you're so bent on scalping that like if you scalp Tesla that you have to take a target or a trade like and you have to take some like your first two contracts like at the initial pop of a point or 50 cents, then do it. You know, then legitimately then take two there and then hold for 50% to your target and then take your last two or something like that or a third or whatever it is at your at your target. And I kind of develop targets the same way, how I look for targets. So usually, and I don't know if either one of you said this, unless there's a pivot or like, so if I'm doing a bounce, sometimes it's a bounce to VWAP or a bounce to the 21 if that line is above. Like if it's a short and we hit really good support like S3 and we're bouncing and VWAP's ahead or the 21's up, I'm like, hey, we're three legs down. I think we're going to retrace to the 21. My target might be that or a pivot. But apart from that, I do the same thing to answer this question that y'all do. I use the 127. I use a fib and I use measured moves, but I usually don't do them except for the fib levels until after the trade is in. Like if I'm entering a trade, so this is part I talked about this on last night's show, that like I know before I get in a trade or not if I'm gonna hold it, and the only time I don't or the only time I extend that is if I get in a trade, I'm up. Like, let's say we were doing that Tesla trade that happened earlier, that Mitchell. So let's say that, let's go to Tesla earlier here. So let's say I scalped Tesla. We could do Facebook or whatever. Let's say for entertainment's sake that I scalped Tesla here. And I got in, let me move us out of the way. I got in here. And
this is today, right?
Yep, this is today.
Okay.
Let's say I got in here and I'm green here. And I'm just using a hypothetical because I'm not going through all the charts to find one that's actually, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to get out. And then Mitchell or somebody else says, hey, or Geronimo comes on the mic. It's like, oh, hey, Tesla day lows is right below here. I like this to go through there. Or like Qs are fail, or something else comes into play that makes me hold it long. Like, that's where I'm flexible enough with my levels. Like, hey, I'm just trying to quick scalp this. So my plan going into the trade is quick scalp. And then it goes through, I'm about to get out, but then more information comes in that says, hey, there's a day low break here. This tape looks really, really red. This doesn't look choppy. It looks like it's going to flush. All right, I'm holding, or I'm selling a quarter and holding. And that's the flexibility part of it. So I know beforehand when I'm going to get in a trade if it's a scalp or a target trade. And so this may have been a scalp, and then I realized that I had forgot, oh wait, there's day lows right below here. Oh, this is a 15-minute breakdown. Oh, this is this is something else. Oh, Mitchell's like, oh, I'm looking for this, or CT is like, I'm looking for this, or Geronimo's like, I'm still in a queue short, and I think we're going to this level. That could change my trade a little bit. But other than that, when I'm going to, and I'll use Facebook because I think y'all went over this. That other than that, that's when I'm scalping, and it's just get green and then sell. It's like it popped and I'm out. When I'm looking for the longer holds, it's pretty much the same thing that you guys were saying. I'll sometimes do I don't do it right away though. So it's like if I get in a trade, and this is what I was trying to say, that is a planned long move. So let's say Facebook here at the end of today. I didn't do this. I'm armchair quartering backing it. Armchair quarterback hardcore here. I would look at it, and it's like if it was failing, it's like, okay, I want to get back in it. It broke the 21. It failed VWAP. The Qs are really weak. Going towards the day lows. I want to short Facebook, but I want to short it when it hits the 21. My plan is to do that. Okay, it hit the 21. It broke down. I either buy it on the 21 short, like right here when it starts breaking down is probably what I try to do. But to be honest, depending on how this candle is, I could have shorted it here and got shaken out, or just shorted it here. So I short it, and let's say I'm a good enough trader to hold this. I'm not always instantly looking for a target unless I fibbed it. If I fibbed it and I have the 127, I have a target. If I'm doing a measured move, usually it's like a little bit after and I'm green on the trade, and I pull up this chart where I can zoom out and I'll look at it unless there's a clear target, and I'll be like, well, let's see. You could say that's not I don't know. That's probably too much. You could look at it and be like that. If I went from the top of the line or here, so that would be let me delete that. I'll redraw this. So in short, I sometimes get my targets after the fact. I feel like that's a
Like
lag.
once you're comfortably green, you
Yes.
take the time to
Yeah.
measure out where you might want to hold it to.
Yes. And thank you for saying what I don't know how to say a lot quicker than I say it. So it would be something, this isn't exactly right, but it would be something like this. Because that's the top of the breakdown to this one. So I would be looking, so look, here's the last move. So you can see the chart, works perfectly. So here's the breakdown level right here. And then here's your breakdown level. It'd be a little bit longer, so it'd be a little bit lower, like that. And I would use that. And it's like I'm in it, I'm green, I know I'm going to hold it, my stop didn't trigger, my plan is to hold the trade. Now I do a measured move or I do a fib, maybe they both line up and it's a perfect, like, both of them are at the same level. I know I'm definitely holding here. And I'll get my idea from that, and I kind of get my stop afterwards. The only other way I pick a target is in Google, sometimes in Facebook too, when I use stochastics. Not to ramble on that, but it would be like, here's the 2 minute in Facebook. Where's that breakdown? There's the breakdown. That's not the break. Here's your breakdown. So here is that. So here's your using stochastics. Here's your entry. So stochastic cross. Where did it hit? Say it hit here, I guess. And stochastics crossed, and then it pops around some and then goes down. When the stochastics gets down to the bottom and starts curling back up above that line, sometimes it's an exit. That's more in Google than in any other name. That's really so that's the second way I get my target. That target is really, I only get that in Google and the Qs, is using the stochastics to pick my exit. And it's just when it gets to that level, I sell. It's like it's down here, I sell. Kids waking up again. So that would be my exit to your question if you're watching the show.
Kid is crying, and we're taking up on 1 hour 59 and 26 seconds. What time is it?
Yeah. Both kids are fussing, actually. What in the world? They've been sleeping so good lately too, man. So I know, so to answer, I kind of answered that in a very long-winded way, or whatever it is. But those are the two ways. Often it's after the fact that I get my levels that I'm looking for. That might not be professional. JR might say I'm stupid for that.
We're allowed to be stupid. We're like, beginners compared to him.
I'm not a guru, like
Yeah.
not a guru over here. So we are up on 2 hours. I mean I'm not doing anything tonight, but I know y'all got stuff going on. West Coast people, you still got all night. It's 11 o'clock over here.
Party's just getting started over here, yo.
Y'all are just going. This is your pregame. Y'all are This is the best way to pregame.
I haven't even started my game. I'm drinking water, yo.
Yeah, I know you're about to be going out and going hard. Anything for the people? Any questions in here that you guys have?
You want to switch back to a different screen so we can all say goodbye?
Yeah, there we go. Same screen I just threw us up.
Cool.
You
Leo.
only have 7. Well, Blayman, send me a thing in Discord if you only have 7 questions.
Yeah, I don't know. It's obviously always fun to hang out here, and I know I've learned a few things tonight, Mitchell. I love that you made it on tonight and shared what you've been doing. That's super interesting. And I also want to say that I do appreciate people sending us their questions, because I think that it gives us something that we can all give our input on, and maybe I'll learn a little bit from what Mitchell and what Gator think about a certain thing, and it's good to have these conversations. So don't be afraid, people on YouTube or people in Discord, send us your questions, even if they're detailed, and that gives us, if you're having a problem or you have something that you're wondering about, probably other people are in a similar situation. So hit that like and subscribe button, and
if you don't like and subscribe,
there's only 25 people in the room, but yet there's 13 likes. Y'all
some of you, about half of you,
aren't pulling your weight.
I'll start investigating.
You're letting us down.
But yeah, it's always fun hanging out, and hopefully we'll get back on a regular schedule with this Gator, especially once my life is back in order. Mitchell?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're all learning, None of us are gurus. I make mistakes all the time. I'm sure you guys do too. So we're all just kind of a team trying to figure this out together. And I think for the most of us, I can't speak for everyone, but this year so far has been a definite learning process. And I think when the market does get easier, we're going to be way better traders, way more consistent in the long term. So if you have been struggling so far in this year, I wouldn't get too down on yourself. I would just think of it as if it's, kind of a learning experience. You can almost think of it as a blessing in disguise, because when the market does get easier, you're going to be way more equipped and you're going to trade way more smart in the long term. And it's just going to be beneficial in the long term. So try not to dwell too much on mistakes that have been made in this year, because it's been hard for a lot of people, and it will get easier here at some point.
It will, and stay disciplined. Practice discipline. Practice your craft. It's not just a hobby. This is a job. If it is a hobby for you, but this is a job, something you put a lot of time into. So take time to learn, and it will get better. Thank you so much, CeeTee, for coming on. Mitchell, for your first time, you're welcome on here anytime, dude. Anytime you want to come on and talk, or you just want to hang out and chat midweek, end of the week, glad to have you. Same to you, CeeTee. Love you guys, everybody in chat. Again, if you do have questions, you want us to answer them, you don't want us to say who you are, you just want our opinions, whatever it is, send over in Discord, and we'd be glad to answer them and to get to them on a future show. I appreciate everybody hanging out here for 2 hours. If you did hang out the whole time, or whatever it is, yeah, that's what I got. No show obviously tomorrow. Enjoy the long weekend. Relax. Happy Easter, everybody. Love you guys, and we'll see you all next week.
Peace
All
out.
right, yeah, enjoy the 3-day weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Same.
Take care, everyone.